Yo, what's going on, guys, man? It's your boy Mickal, aka Mr. Nappy Hair Boomer. In today's video, man, we got Meek, the most hated NFL player ever, man. If you're new, man, hit that like button, subscribe, and run us to 530 subs. Let's get into the video, though.
No, they can't cross. And it's a line that one particular player has gone far beyond, way more than others. Meet the most hated player in NFL history, Vontaze Burfict. To fully understand why Vontaze became the type of player he did, one must know the life he was born into. Burfict was born in South Central Los Angeles to parents who had both been gang members. While Vontaze's mom got her life together and became a city transit bus driver, the same could not be said for his father. Throughout Vontaze's childhood, his dad was in and out of prison for dealing cocaine. He is currently serving a 25-year prison sentence and has no known relationship with his son. So, with Vontaze's father out of the picture, his mother had to step up and raise him and his older half-brother by herself. This tough upbringing shaped Vontaze's personality from a young age, and he was well known for his aggression. Like a lot of aggressive youth, Burfict turned to football as a way to unleash his feelings. The sport allowed and even encouraged him to be himself. But when it came time to play for Centennial High School in Corona, California, Vontaze was forced to miss almost all of his sophomore season due to academic issues. The following year, he improved his grades and was finally able to show everyone what he was all about on the football field. As a junior, he led the team in tackles with 130, and Vontaze wasn't just shining on your average team. Centennial finished that 2007 season as number 24 on USA Today's top 25 high school teams. Then, as a senior, Burfict again led the team in tackles with 159 and helped them win a state championship, being ranked second in the country by USA Today. Although Vontaze was thriving, he was simultaneously developing a reputation that would follow him around for years to come. His mom said that parents would often come up to her at games and ask her to tell Vontaze not to hit their son so hard. It'd be one thing if Burfict
Nigga, it's football, man. Fuck all that shit, man. It's football, nigga. If you want your son getting hit it, pause. Nigga, get him out of football, nigga. Go put him in tennis. Look at me. Man, fuck all that, man.
was hitting hard within the rules, but that wasn't the case. One example from his high school career stands out and involves a future NFL quarterback. While going up against Matt Barkley, one of the top prospects in the country, Vontaze dove headfirst at Barkley's knees while flying in at full speed. Burfict's intentions were clear as day, and so egregious that Barkley never forgot about it. Talking about Vontaze years later, when the two were set to face off at the college level, Barkley said, "He's a dirty player. His switch is always on, and it's not a good switch." Despite his quickly growing reputation for being a dirty player, Burfict was labeled a can't-miss prospect. He was a consensus 5-star recruit, listed as the #1 inside linebacker prospect in the nation, and chosen to play in the 2009 U.S. Army All-American Bowl. Vontaze had schools from all over the country, such as USC, Colorado, Tennessee, Miami, and Arizona State, begging him to choose them. He eventually committed to USC, which at the time was considered one of the elite programs. However, Burfict later decommitted from the Trojans before ending up at Arizona State. After arriving in Tempe to play for the Sun Devils, Vontaze
went to Arizona State. Why? USC at that time in the early 2000s, USC was one of the best teams. Now, I think UC is solely going back to the best schools, but it's going to take I don't know, bro. UC should always be good at football and basketball, bro. That's the wrong program that should be good at football and basketball. The same thing with Texas. The same thing with Florida State, Florida, Miami, with football-wise.
Vontaze wasted no time showing his new coaches and teammates the type of player he was. While talking about Burfict, one reporter who covered Arizona State football said, "I think in the first week, after he'd been cleared academically as a freshman, he was in a fight every day of practice that following week. But just like in high school, Vontaze was dominant enough to overlook his dirty play. As a freshman at ASU, Burfict played in all 12 games and further distracted people with his standout ability. He finished the season with 69 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles, on his way to being named Pac-10 Defensive Freshman of the Year. After making the transition to college ball look so easy, expectations were high heading into Vontaze's sophomore year, and he was listed as a preseason All-American. By midway through the season, his on-field production was that of an All-American, as he led the Sun Devils in tackles. But then, in a game against Oregon State, Vontaze did something that could no longer be brushed aside as normal football aggression. After missing a tackle on the Beavers quarterback, and with the play clearly being over, Burfict got up and headbutted the QB.
What?
Oregon State's head coach at the time, Mike Riley, said, "I know one thing. Somebody is taking a blow every play Burfict is on the field." Following the headbutt, Burfict's actions had gotten so out of hand that he left his coach with no choice. Despite being the team's unquestioned best player, he was left out of the starting lineup for the team's next game because he kept crossing the line. His coach, Dennis Erickson, said, "There are things that are non-football related, and you just can't have them. We had one of those in the game against Oregon State, so he's not going to start, and hopefully he can learn to control himself." This punishment wouldn't slow down Vontez's season, as he finished with 90 tackles, with 8.5 of them being for a loss and 2 forced fumbles. However, his dirty play was being noticed, and he was labeled the meanest man in college football that offseason. And yet, prior to his junior season, the Burfict hype train was off and running. He was viewed as one of the best linebacker prospects in the upcoming draft and was projected by most experts to be a first-round pick. The problem was, everything changed that year. Vontez didn't have nearly as large of an impact as people had expected. He had 21 fewer tackles than the season before and 0 forced fumbles. But even after a disappointing season and having one more year of eligibility, Burfict decided to declare for the 2012 NFL Draft. With his on-field production having dipped, people were now focusing more on his anger management issues. And for good reason. Vontez picked up a personal foul in more than every other game, finishing with 22 in 37 games. That is unheard of at any level of football. NFL Network's Mike Mayock, a week before the draft, said, "I think he's a non-draftable kid. For me, he's a free agent. 250."
And he still got drafted. I'm gonna see what he got, and he still got drafted. I think he would just fix his. That's probably his personality though, but like diving on like the knees and stuff like that. That is not football. You're literally trying to injure somebody that can potentially end their career just from that.
3 names were called during the draft, and Mayock wound up being right, as Vontez Burfict was not one of them. After going undrafted, the Bengals took a flyer on Burfict and signed him to a 3-year, $1.44 million contract with a $1,000 signing bonus. The experience seemed to be a wake-up call for Vontez, who went from projected first-round pick to having to battle to even make a roster. But he impressed the Bengals in training camp and made their 53-man roster before appearing in all 16 games that season for Cincinnati. Vontez was also on his best behavior that year, staying out of trouble. It wasn't until his second season that Burfict couldn't help himself and slipped into his old habits. In Week 3, against the Packers, Vontez received his first NFL fine following a hit to tight end Ryan Taylor below the belt after the play had ended. And it didn't take long at all for Vontez to receive his second fine. That came in the same game, when he was flagged for nailing James Jones in the head, who was deemed a defenseless receiver. Then, just 3 games later against the Bills, Burfict was called for 3 different 15-yard penalties, and Vontez wasn't done yet. In Week 8 against the Jets, he was fined again for trying to take the head off wide receiver
Yo, is that Davis?
Stephen Hill, while all
Nah, you going helmet to helmet? Nah, you can literally potentially kill somebody like that. Literally doing that and or in their career, bro. Like that's not even football right there. I see why NFL put the NFL rules helmet to helmet there. I get why now.
all of these incidents would have defined the season as a whole for most players. It didn't for Burfict. Once again, his on-field dominance was there to distract some of the narrative. During that 2013 season, Vontez led the NFL in tackles with 171 and became the first Bengals linebacker to be selected to the Pro Bowl since 1976. Then, looking to build on that standout season the following year, a knee injury forced Burfict to only play in 5 games. However, the shortened season didn't stop him from making more headlines. Just not for the right reason. Playing against the Panthers, Vontez was caught maliciously twisting the ankles of Cam Newton and Greg Olsen after the play on 2 separate occasions, so the NFL added to Burfict's growing fines total. That number only got larger during the 2015 season, when Vontez was hit with a $69,454 fine for 2 unnecessary roughness penalties and diving at Ben Roethlisberger's knees, all in the same game. And during a Week 17 game that year, Burfict was fined $50,000 for a cheap shot on Ravens tight end Max Williams. Then, in the Bengals wildcard matchup against the Steelers, events involving Burfict reached a boiling point. With less than 20 seconds to go in the game, a pass clearly sailed over Antonio Brown's head, but Vontez being
it was that. That was him. Oh nah, I think that's what Antonio Brown this one football was like really like football. Now it's like flag football type of stuff. You can still hit, but like it's not like how you can do it back then. Like
Vontez, he took the moment as an opportunity to blow up Brown, lowering his shoulder into Brown's head.
That's
The refs
not
called a
even-
penalty,
come on now,
which ended up costing the Bengals the game and their season. The hit was so brutal that Brown was knocked out of the game with a concussion and kept out of the Steelers' divisional round game the following week. Burfict was suspended for the first 3 games of the next season. By then, Burfict's reputation was inescapable, and he was the undisputed most despised person in Pittsburgh. Being forced to sit out those games and being the reason your team's season ended prematurely should have been another wake-up call for Vontez. But this time around, it wasn't. During the 2016 season, he was fined $75,000 for stomping on Patriots running back LeGarrette Blount after a play, and $12,154 for giving the middle finger to Bills fans. While some people could try to defend Burfict by saying all these occurred during the heat of battle, that argument was thrown out the window during the 2017 preseason. Chiefs fullback Anthony Sherman was going out for a pass when Vontez laid him out, despite the ball not even going to Sherman. The play would have been extremely dirty even if it was a regular season or a playoff game, but to do it in the preseason was so unheard of and so uncalled for that the NFL suspended Burfict for 5 games. The suspension was eventually reduced to 3 games, but Vontez still didn't learn his lesson, and in Week 7 was fined $12,154 for kicking Steelers fullback Roosevelt Nix. Following this incident and the wild card game the previous season, everyone was expecting fireworks for Cincinnati's Week 13 matchup with Pittsburgh. After years of Burfict hunting Steelers players, would someone from the black and yellow finally retaliate? In the 4th quarter, with the Steelers trailing, Juju Smith-Schuster decided to make a statement.
Okay, so this is him. Okay.
Burfict's attention was centered on the ball carrier Le'Veon Bell when Juju came across the middle and laid a vicious blindside block on Vontez. Juju then stood over the visibly dazed and confused Burfict and let him know how he and the entire city of Pittsburgh felt. The play perfectly represented how so many people felt after having watched Vontez wreak so much havoc outside the rules of the sport. In fact, Juju said, "After that hit, I don't have to pay for anything. When I go to bars, I don't have to pay for drinks or anything. Yo, we appreciate what you did," and stuff like that. Then, during the 2018 offseason, just when it seemed like Burfict had been punished for it all, he found a way to break another rule. He was suspended 4 games for violating the league's PED policy. And in just his 2nd game back from suspension, Vontez was fined $112,000 for hits on Antonio Brown and James Conner.
Come on, bro. You doing that, bro? You just wasting money. They finding you just wasting money, bro. Like, man, if you make it to the league, you should be like, you should be proud of that. Because people don't really make it to the NFL. People don't really make it to the NBA. People don't really make it to the MLB. People don't really make it to the NHL. Like, it's a blessing to be in the league, bro. Like, if you're in the league, bro, take it seriously. Like, don't play dirty. Be a good player, but don't play dirty. Be a player that people like they fear. Maybe not fear, but like they fear. Like, oh, watch out for him. Watch out for him. Feel me? You get the rip that you're the most hated because you died on people's knees. Coming to helmet, like, come on, bro. Like, being in the NFL and all that is a blessing. And I don't know if he's still in the league. No, he probably not still in the league now. What am I saying?
Once the season ended, the Bengals had to think long and hard about whether Burfict's play was good enough to warrant all of the extra issues that came with it. Ultimately, they determined it was not and parted ways with their extremely problematic linebacker. In just 7 total seasons in Cincinnati, Burfict managed to rack up over $4.5 million in fines and forfeited pay. For context, in his first 2 seasons with the Bengals, he only made $871,000 from his contract. Following his release, a team gave Vontez a second chance, if you can even call it that, and who did it should come as no surprise given their historical reputation. The Oakland Raiders signed Vontez to a 1-year, $5 million contract. Now, playing for a new team, Burfict had a chance to finally turn a new leaf. If he were to cut out the dirty plays in Oakland, people would potentially begin to change their perception of him. His days as a Bengal could be associated with a different Vontez, like Ron Artest years after the malice at the Palace, when he became known as Meta World Peace. And at first with the Raiders, Burfict seemed on his way to achieving this transformation. During the 2019 offseason and training, he won over the Oakland coaching staff and players, as they named him a team captain. That's an honor reserved for a leader, not someone who loses their mind on the field. However, in a Week 4 matchup with the Colts, everything changed when tight end Jack Doyle caught a pass over the middle. Doyle was on his knees and
Bro,
defenseless
look at
when
this.
Burfict came in full speed and lowered his helmet into Doyle's. Even for Vontez's standards, it was as dirty as it gets. He was immediately ejected from the game, and the league decided
not
they needed to
cool.
do something that they had never done before. Burfict was suspended for the rest of the season, and his 12-game suspension marked the longest in league history for an on-field hit. While announcing the suspension, NFL Vice President of Football Operations John Runyon said Vontez was suspended for repeated violations of unnecessary roughness rules. Addressing Burfict directly, Runyon added, "You have continued to flagrantly abuse rules designated to..."
I think that's why NFL did that rule. The helmet to him. I think that's why they put it in because of him. It has to be.
Protect yourself and your
Has to be.
opponents from unnecessary risk. The message was about as straightforward as it gets from the NFL. After the season, Burfict became a free agent and shared that he wanted to continue playing in the NFL. However, nobody else in the league wanted him to continue playing football. To this day, nobody has signed Vontez, even though he has not declared that he is retired. Vontez Burfict will forever be a part of football lore for all the wrong reasons.
And he stayed in the league for that long. They still let him in the league for that long, and the Bengals could then give him. That is crazy. Anyway, man, that was a video of the meet the most hated NFL player. That's crazy. If he just would have stopped doing all that dirty stuff, he'd probably still be in the league right now as a veteran. Feel me? But anyways, man, Benny Boy Mickal, I'm signing out.